So that's why it's important that we learn innovation in policy and transforming governments for the 21st century. And to help us moderate this panel, we would like to invite one who is a versatile individual that is driven by a fervent passion for crafting innovative solutions in the realms of technology and media. Now, as a two-time Africa Democracy Ambassador for Need Democracy, his commitment to advancing democratic values and empowering communities remains resolute. I would like you to know that he has collaborated on projects with the World Bank, enriching his insights into global development efforts. As a key participant in shaping policies, he was among the selected 35 African youths that were entrusted with drafting the ATUCA youth policy. You could go Google that. The ATUCA youth policy. Now, the person I'm talking about, who will be our graceful moderator, is, I should have asked you the correct pronunciation of this your name before I came up on stage. Let me try my best. Please, sir, you help me when you come on stage. Please help me make welcome Mr. Emmanuel Eshege. Did I get that right? Oh, he said I tried. Please, a round of applause for him as he makes his way to the podium. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, man, who am I kidding? Greatest Nigerian students! Greatest Nigerian students! Greatest Baga! Greatest Bogu! We are in the building. I'm a product of Aluta, so. Before I came on stage, she was saying, future president, amen. It's not a church thing. So, before I start, I'll let you know. 100 level, let me see your hand. 200, final year, good. Whatever is it you're doing right now, there are people watching. That's what I'll tell you. So if you're going to be a governor in the next 10 years, you can act as one now. It is interesting because while doing Aluta in school and missing exams and jumping up and down, the day I dropped my pen, an office in Abuja called me to resume work the next day. I did not apply, and that was the NLC. That's where I started, the Nigeria Labour Congress. Because they were watching. I don't know if you get me. So whatever is it you're doing now, please, if you want to be a governor, start acting like a governor now. And that is why this conversation is very important. Policies, how do they affect you? She mentioned that some persons don't have up to 1,000 naira in their account. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. The truth is, some of these policies are why you're broke. I don't know if you heard me. Some of the policies are why you're broke. And how have you recognized these policies? Have you taken your time to sit down and ask yourself, why am I broke? Why is this person making money or appearing like they are making money? Because you could appear rich and not be rich. I hope you know that. You could appear rich and not be rich. Have you asked yourself, why am I broke? What are the policies keeping me in this bondage? How do I break out from this? Have you asked yourself? I don't like to do too many corporate talks, so we're going to have, our session is going to be very practical. I had a small thing written down, but let's skip that. And move to inviting my bosses in the house. You would notice that I'm like the youngest amongst all of the speakers here. That's because, like I said, I started where you are. So please, if you don't want to be 40 and asking yourself what you're doing, start now. If you want to be governor, you can be the youngest governor in Nigeria. You can. You can. You can be a governor in your final year. You're not aware? Oh, please try. So, joining me on stage, I have incredible people. I want to learn from them. But first of all is Dr. Dayo Kayode, a renowned aviation safety, I'm coming, please. A renowned safety consultant and national advocate for a united Nigeria. Is a prominent commentator on various national electronic media platforms since leaving public service in 2007. Dr. Kayode, 2007. I know there are a lot of Gen Zs here, so it's okay. Since 2007, Dr. Kayode has actively engaged in national discourses to promote cohesion, socio-economic development, and political growth. He co-founded the Ekiti 11, contributing significantly to the socio-political and economic emancipation of Ekiti State. That deserves a round of applause, please. Okay. So, welcome on stage, please, this change pioneer, Dr. Kayode Dayo, please. A round of applause for Mr. Kayode.
They say birds of the same feather flocks together. When you said you were an Aluta person, great Akokite. That's not how to answer. Great Akokite. No? Great Akokite. When he said today is now, and I was looking at that lady there when she came up, and my sister was telling her to get ready to become student union president or wherever. I was a Jambite. I was a Jambite. When some of us forced the government of the University of Ibadan to make borehole for us, to give us a good befitting living standard, to give us water, to give us internet transport service. And as a Jambite, I was called upon to face Senate. But what happened? We got victorious. So your day to start being in greatness is not tomorrow, it's now. Thank you.
A round of applause, guys. A round of applause, guys. Are you excited already? You have a lot to learn here. So joining us again is a seasoned development sector professional with 14 years of experience across Africa. His expertise spans social protection, human development, community development, health promotion, youth and family economy, and organization development. With strong project management and ME skills, he has successfully led national and multi-country projects funded by global organizations. He's a volunteer faculty member and a mentor, contributing to programs like Faith Foundation and Leap Africa Social Innovators Program. Please welcome on our stage, Mr. Gabriel Okeo. Mr. Gabriel, please. Oh, sorry, representing... Okay, so I hear he sent somebody to represent him, Mr. Enibie, please. You help us with your full name when you come on stage. May a round of applause for Mr. Enibie, please. A round of applause for Mr. Enibie. So, Nigerian students. What is policy? Please, anybody with the correct answer in the hall. What do you understand by policy? Nobody? Okay, please Google it. We have smartphones, please. Well, I didn't say that, but of course. Please, who has the answer now from Google? Policy. You do? Please help us.
Set of rules or guidelines that govern certain actions or behaviors.
A round of applause for her, please. What are the key things you could pick from that definition? Anybody? Certain what? Rules and good. Let me join my panelists. You're welcome, sirs. Well, we've domesticated this to the Nigerian economy. as against the global stage, because we want our students here to understand why and how they become who they are. Good. And so our questions, like I said, have been domesticated. Dr. Kayode, please, I would want you to take the first question. How can innovation in policy making transform governance to better serve the need of the Nigerian population in the 21st century?
Say Big B.
Big B. Who's in the house?
Say Big B. Say Gbagba. Greatest Nigerian students.
Great.
You see, my approach to issues this afternoon is going to be like picking pieces and making it a mosaic at the end of the day. But I can assure you, you should listen very well and you adapt those things very well. Don't be surprised. The next Nigerian president or the next governor of a state, they are all sitting down here. Now, I'm going to start from this. When you're talking of government policies, it has to do with statements that controls and allocates the state resources towards ensuring what? The good livelihood of the people. That's just trying to define policy in a version that you will properly understand. Now, how will that affect the people in the 21st century? I will go back to the epistemology of Dr. Agugwa when he was talking about creation. And when the dirty man of Africa was also talking. Everything they said, let's go back to even creation. Come, let us create human beings in our what? In our image. That means already there has been something inside that person that made mention of that thing, which I will call notion. He already has a notion of what he wants to do. And that notion now gave birth to the vision. Are we together? There must first of all be a notion. When you don't have that notion, you cannot have a vision. A vision can be equated to conceptualization. Are we together? Some people are playing there. Tunde, what's your name again? Shehu. You started campaigning. After that vision, when you have a vision, then you create a mission, that is action plan. Then you go into action. But one thing is very germane, very important. Before you can have that, the first one, which is notion. Ask me, what is it? Information. All right? Information. And what I'm saying is this. Before government policies can affect you positively, you must have information. I went out just now to receive a call. I was being called by my principal. I won't mention his name. He knows. That, doctor, have you read about the last budget of Tinubu, this and that? I said, yes, I have gone through it. He said, because New Central they want somebody to come and discuss it on the news by 2 o'clock. And I said, I'm sorry, I won't be able to come. Because they always want me to go to all those things to represent him, you know. I won't mention his name. So what I'm saying is, it's all about information. And it's a pity. We Nigerians, why we are like this in the 21st century is because we have failed to get information, to be able to scientifically engage the government. So I was surprised when my brother was talking about, yes, the smell there, what did he call it? I have read about all those interventions, Shopee, we all know about Shopee, N-Power, N-This, all that. They have all been fraudulent. I have challenged them severally. And there is nothing they can do. I was just telling my brother.
Thank you, Dr.
I said, this time, by the beginning of next year, that's why I was saying I'm a troublesome person. Nigeria government will see a new people.
Yeah.
Because in as much as we have failed to engage them scientifically, they will be there. Yeah. Perpetually subjugating us.
All right.
So if you want policies of this 21st century to improve your lives, to get you to where you want to get to ensure that your startup is given to you, listen, you have to engage them. And I will go back to the word of my mentor, Mahatma Gandhi, who was talking about peaceful engagement in his book, Satyagraha. But you should go further. You will see that he talked about passive resistance. Passive resistance, which includes what? Demonstration. Because when you don't do that, at that time, if we never demonstrated at the University of Ibadan, they wouldn't have given us our rights. So when you remain like a recluse, like somebody who has very high elasticity index, who among you here knows about what we call, I'm sorry, sir, what we call direct supply, direct purchase policy of NNPC? I confronted them that, listen, this thing you have increased to 500 and some whatever naira for pump price. I said, you are a rogue. Because already at 190 naira, NNPC was making 100 naira profit. So where is the subsidy? When you're talking of direct supply, direct purchase, there is nothing like subsidy element. They called me, they couldn't challenge me. Because it's the truth. And when you don't tell them the truth, you will keep on, you will be perpetually subjugated. You won't be subjugated if only you get information.
A round of applause for Dr. Dio. It's getting heated. I just realized Dr. Dio is not just a lecturer. The activism comes first. So, sir, please, for the sake of our younger ones here, she said thank you. So, let's give it, okay. I have a follow-up question to that, but before that, let me come to my brother here. She mentioned I was the African Democracy Ambassador for NED, and part of my job was to travel around Africa to train youth on the concept of democracy and all of that. And there's one thing I discovered: a gap in knowledge, a gap in data. Amongst our youth, we're very, I don't want to use the word comfortable, but we're very okay with the information we get. We're not inquisitive enough to push and probably see how we can get those informations that they are holding from us. And I want to ask, coming from your background, sir, how can emerging government in Nigeria ensure that innovative policies are responsive to the evolving need and aspiration of its youthful population? Because as of now, we're about 68-70% youth from the population of Nigeria. So how can the emerging governments ensure that these policies, this innovation, serves the need of this youth?
Thank you very much. My name is Enebi Opalua. I am here representing my country director, Mr. Gabriel Okeowo. He is the director for Budget Foundation. That's where I work. We are a civic tech organization where we use digital technology to push engagements with the public, enlighten the public on government decisions and public policies. That's just summary background information. Well, I am more of a researcher, so I don't have an activist background. So my approach might be a bit different from the doctor here. All right, so how can government policies address emerging issues with the youths, especially with the youths? All right, so I will try to give a few examples. There is a philosophy of policy, and that goes to the main purpose of why do you want a policy to be formulated? What do you aim to achieve with that policy? As time goes on, that philosophy might change, perhaps because you have achieved your target, or maybe the target has shifted. Maybe it's no longer relevant. The times have changed. With different generations, approach change, and so you have to be able to evolve along with the generation. For example, when I was young, we only had landlines, all right? And so you understand the policies that govern communication, telecommunications at that point were different. The education system only addressed carbon granule telephones, if you get my point. Right, so by the time the 2000s came under the Obasanjo administration, we moved into GSM technology. Unfortunately, it took a while for the education system in communications technology to catch up. I was in school in 2003, 2004, studying engineering then, and the telecoms curriculum then still was talking about telephones that were more or less in the museums, the dial telephone, something I drew in physics in secondary school. Like, no, this is not appropriate. Come on. Thankfully, our lecturer took it upon himself to update the curriculum outside the government. I don't know if it has been updated now, but that was where we were able to now engage with modern, at least for what Nigeria had, modern communications technology, and made it the question in our exams. So that is one. Things evolved. You have to adapt and change. And in order to do that, you need to understand the recipients of your policy. If you are looking at youths, a youthful population, what are the needs of these people? You want to do a very popular example, pricing of data. What will be the perfect price point that will not limit access, but actually promote access for this demography of people? There are businesses that depend on this particular service. What price point, what decisions can we make that will enable those businesses to thrive, make more money, rather than be retrogressive? I'm sure we were aware of, I think some 4 or 5 years ago, when the Minister of Communications wanted to increase the price of the tariff, and everybody was in uproar. Whether it was for good or for bad, that process was not managed well, and there was a serious pushback from the public. Right now, at least for all intents and purposes, according to what we know, the tariffs have not changed, at least for what we know. For those who work in telecoms company might have a different understanding about that. So you need to understand the population, the demography, your target people, and what you aim to achieve. Another quick example, if you look at Nigeria's population census, the philosophy, before independence, we were running from population census. People didn't want to be counted, because the reason for population census then was the colonial masters wanted to know the size of their taxable population, and the Nigerians didn't want to pay tax. So they intentionally pushed their numbers down. After independence, the philosophy changed. It was now, how do we allocate resources? And that was what now drove population census, the philosophy of population census. And now, instead of pushing numbers down, everybody's looking for how to increase their own numbers, because that determines the allocation that the federal government begins to push to your own area, your state, or your region. So those are some things that we look at. You need to understand the environment, the current situation, what are the needs, and then design your policies that will be very, very, as much as possible, accurate enough to achieve your desired goal. Thank you. I didn't talk too much.
Thank you, Mr. Eneme. Who can give me a summary of what you just said? 10,000 naira if you can. Hello? Anybody? Okay, pay attention. If you can get the next one, the prices changes. Okay? We're doing this together, are we? Good as Nigerian students. No, Mr. Dio. I want to ask a question, but I'll give you a personal problem I have with a particular policy, which is the Nigerian debit card. We still can't pay for international transactions. And there was a time I confronted a few persons, stakeholders in that department, and I was like, for instance, as a tech person, because I'm a tech person first, I do a lot of international transactions. And if I need to pay for a hosting that is about 65,000, for instance, I have to buy dollar at the black rate now for like 140, and then I pay again black rate, and I pay like 80-something thousand. And the banks are losing out on these transactions because of this particular policy. Because if I was using a Naira card, it means I'll be paying 65 or probably pay 70, 5,000 goes to my bank. But now I'm paying via a third-party app, and we're losing out on this policy. Now, where do you think Nigerian governance now should draw the line in implementing policies? Because I think one of the problems we have is people don't sit back and say, okay, this policy is wrong, can we take it back? Because of the backlash and all. But where do you think Nigeria should draw the line? And most importantly, should there be test run of policies before implementation? Thank you.
You are still in NLC. Hello? You left NLC. Now let me use NLC as an analogy. Each time I get opportunity to sit down with NLC officials on national discourse, especially when it concerns talking about minimum wage. I always made them to understand that, listen, you are the cause of your woes. The NLC has always been the cause of his woes. Ask me why. The issue concept of minimum wage has been there since Papa Michael Imodu, down to Alhaji Sumonu, to Bafiao. I've been expecting that after Bafiao, things should change. Something like, I suggested to the secretary sometimes ago on, maybe on AIT or NTA, that why don't you guys start talking about sustainable minimum living wage? Sustainable minimum living wage, to the extent that any distortion in any tariff or in inflationary rate in the country, definitely there will have been a template, must also affect the living wage. And the guy asked me how. I said, okay, give me the consultancy work. All right? But till today, last week they were still talking about, what do I call it now? Minimum wage. Why am I saying this? What exactly is affecting NLC is what is affecting the system, also the government, whereby we are now using, what do I call it now, ATM cards, but still you cannot use it to transact. A few days ago I was telling somebody, I said sometimes I get fed up. There is no system, no theory, no practicable thing you bring down here that will work. I confronted Baba Basojo when he said we should change our democracy to African democracy. I said, Baba, na lie. We were formerly practicing parliamentary that they are still running now in UK. Did it work? No. Presidential that we are doing now, is it the way they practice this in America? No. No. I said, we have to change our mindset as a people. I said, Papa, it is not about the system. Our constitution, nothing is wrong with our constitution. Look at our newly signed electoral law. Nothing wrong with it. But what happened? They were talking about a glitch. What nonsense glitch? I used to play lawn tennis. A Luga medalist for that matter for University of Ibadan. When you are playing a tournament, nobody envisage rainfall. But when you have a small drop of water on the lawn tennis court, it's a glitch. The umpire will have to stop that match. And then we continue thereafter, after cleaning the court. So why don't you also stop that and then clean your stables before continue? And then look at now, judicial validation of violations. Yes. Judicial validation of violations. And now you can now see small children now going through identity theft. People are now singing. Yes. People are now thinking how to go and steal certificates. Not to buy, says steal. People are now thinking how to tell anybody that, listen, you can always run away with what is not your own. Then let us go and meet and settle this elsewhere. Like Ibadan, I'm sorry for people from Ibadan. You know, I school in Ibadan, so I know them a little bit. Ibadan, that is Ibadan, whereby somebody who has stolen your property will still take you to court and will still win you. And he will now tell you, why did you keep it where I will be able to see it to steal it? So that is exactly where we are. Now let me now tell you, the government will never come up with policies that will ensure your development and your well-being. You know why? Because they are highly hedonistic in tendency. What does that mean? That is to say, shaking solid kids are not interpret again. That is to say, they are always thinking about themselves and generations to come. How come somebody who has just assumed position is now having under many months four richest oil wells to do what? Our governors, what are they doing with all those billions and billions? What are they doing with it? But I wouldn't blame them. I always tell the people, I won't blame them. I will blame you and me. Because we have been too docile. We have been too docile. Anybody, any human being has a trait of an animal. Dr. Agugwa, am I right? Obesian theory. Yeah? You always want to look at yourself. That is to say, we all have an ego to feed. So I can assume, if you are docile, I will steal your property to feed my own ego. If you don't talk, I will keep on stealing it. But when you resist, I will say, oh, go and read about the Jacobin Revolution. Go and read about it. Bolshevik Revolution. The one in England again. Are you with me? So what we need to do as a people, for government to come up with initiatives, policies, that will ensure our well-being, is to engage them scientifically. How do we engage them scientifically? You will get raw data. To be able to tell them, listen, you are stealing us. You are stealing our property by selling to us poor price at 600 plus. You are stealing our money. But then they will ask you to prove it. The moment you can prove it, they will leave you. They won't do anything. So not until when we start to engage them. Not until when we start to engage them. You can even, the students of Dr. Agugwa, you can even engage him. If you have your facts and figures. You can engage the university if you have your facts and figures.
True.
I have told you what we did while I was a Jambite.
True.
enough. I mean, a word is enough for the wise.
A round of applause, a round of applause, a round of applause for that. Quickly, you want to...
Just want to add just a few things regarding testing of policies.
Yes.
Now, the policy formulation and implementation process is actually not a straight line, it's a cycle. All right? So there are iterations upon iterations. You see something that you need to correct, you correct it.
Okay.
You continue correcting until you get it right. I will give 2 examples. First is the cashless policy, not the one this year. Not the one this year. No, don't go there. So when the government wanted to go cashless, the pilot states were Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja. And one of the reasons they did that was because these 3 states have more tech infrastructure. So the idea was, depending on the success of the policy in those states, they will not expand it to other states. Even in Lagos now, we are not completely cashless. The level of cashless transactions have increased. Well, you know, at that point, the government said that to stop certain transactions over a certain limit, but that hasn't happened. That would just be an economic catastrophe. I would like to think they saw that and didn't implement that part of the policy. But that is a test before you expand. Another example, which I think is a bit successful, is the BRT system. I don't know how many people know this, but the first BRT line was actually a World Bank funded pilot program from TBS to the Ikorodu axis. So, is it the Bega Ikorodu? No, Bega Island. No, Ikorodu Island. So not the red line, the blue, the first pilot BRT line. So the idea was, let us even see how this will pan out. Many emerging economies were trying out bus rapid transit systems. Lagos was one of the very few first states in Africa to do that. I think second to maybe some in South Africa or Egypt. So they test run, and the numbers they got were very, very promising. They had about 200,000 ridership per day, just along that line. And they did that for a year, saw that it could work, and then began to expand the program. That was from the end of Tinubu, the first pilot. He was just rounding up his governorship, and then Fashola, and then, but it took a while for them to go through the process and expand. Now we have BRT infrastructure going up all over the state because some of the numbers have come out. And now, where I'm going to add is this. There's a phase where you test, you gather data, gather information, look at it, review it, adjust as you go on. And just, no, let me stop there, because if I say my next statement, maybe doctor might become fired up. So
Yes, I feel like doctor don't like me because he's touched 2 areas that... did you read my profile, sir? Did you read my profile before today, sir? My profile. You've touched 2 areas that concerns me personally. I mean, you've jumped on NLC and you mentioned Shopee. I was the national media strategist for Shopee. So, so I feel like you don't like me.
He must Leonard.
So my
Leonard,
next...
he must buy all of us breakfast. I mean, lunch today. He must buy all of us lunch.
I would round up with something from this particular question I've asked, but before then, our last question for the day, please. For you now. In what ways can Nigeria leverage data and analytics to inform evidence-based policy making and improve decision-making process within government?
Okay, data is like the foundation or the spinal cord of any policy. You can't jump into anything without having information. The moment you just jump into a policy without gathering information on data first and analyzing it properly, you get into accidents. You run into some very, very ugly situations. Now the issue is, how many policies are data driven in Nigeria? I wouldn't say 0. I don't want to say, because if you look at both federal and state government, you are beginning to see where there are some innovations that are coming up. We've seen where the Kwara state government is doing something with tabs for the education sector. Lagos state government also are doing some things in that area. Data is crucial, and if you must be accurate, Because we are talking about people's lives. In Lagos, 20 million people. In Nigeria, over 200 million people. These are lives, it's not just numbers. So you have to try to get it right as much as possible, and data is crucial. We need to spend time to get the data. It's not a sprint. Democracy and governance is a marathon. On the way, you might run into some potholes. You might get some bruises. You bandage yourself, you continue going. When you make a mistake, acknowledge the mistake, which is something that maybe for political expediency, governments don't want to do. When a government makes a mistake, they don't want to admit that they made a mistake. Admit and move forward. Go beyond that. Correct it. If you make a mistake, bandage yourself, continue. I'm just tempted to touch this example. I don't Okay, our election process is not perfect. If you look at from 1999 to 2023, it was like a sinusoidal curve. Those who are scientists here, you know the sine curve, like it goes up, go down. So maybe now you might feel you are at the trough, not the crest. We won't stay there forever. But if we decide to do nothing, we might just stay there. So I would just say the best thing, don't stay there. Don't give up, don't lose hope. Engage, continue engaging it, because I've heard some people say, man, I'm not, that is the worst thing you could do. Continue engaging the process. The sine curve will move back to the crest. Thank you.
Thank you for that insightful one. Before I come to Mr. Dio, my question, I would want to give us a simple brief. I would make our question a fuse of the one I was going to ask you before this. So, amongst us here, please, we know the definition of democracy, right? Because we keep talking of policies, and from the conversation so far, we've been up about the government. Who exactly is the government? So please, what's the definition of democracy, please? The generally accepted democracy definition? Who? Anybody? We can do it together. Democracy? Government what? For the people. By the people. There are some things I like to explain. Of, for, by. Of the people means one of you. For the people means one of you for all of us, right? And by the people means all of us for you. You don't give what you don't have. If you're corrupt today, you'll be corrupt tomorrow. So if governance is going to, if a seat in governance is going to be mounted by you, who exactly are you? Have you asked yourself that question? Who am I? So, sir, my last question for you before we round up. We can blame the government. They make the wrong policies. But we've now established that we are the government. So how would these people, or what are the steps, what are the challenges they face first? And how do they navigate these challenges to become better people or policymakers in the future?
Thank you. Let me first of all, before, because I might forget, to appreciate what your bosses have been doing with the budget. I've always been following the publications, and I've always been getting vital information from budgets. And this other one, not tracker, this other group, I will remember now. Now, to ensure that we have a through democracy, when I say through democracy, that is democracy by us, for us, and for us. Democracy by us and for us. There is, I'm sorry, in Ekiti they will say, there's no shortcut to the top of the palm tree. Where you climbed through is where you also come down from. Yes or no? So it is garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you want is what you get. The question now is, each and every one of us, what had been our contributions to ensuring democracy works in Nigeria? I have some friends, male and female. They always call me Baba Nigeria. You know why? Because I, as a person, have decided, longest time ago, not to Japa, but to remain here. Despite my opportunities of traveling virtually all over the world and coming back to Nigeria. Because if to say I'm living in America now, will I be here today? No. From the nonsense I've been talking since, do you know how many people have been inspired? There are a lot of people that send me messages that I am the one that have been giving them confidence to continue staying in this country when they listen to me on radio or on television. Now, when we started, my lady there said, ensure that you help the person beside you. Help somebody in the society. Help does not come from money alone. Help does not come from borrowing your neighbor, your notebook. It comes from different angles. Look at Shem. You saw the way Shem came up here just now, and people were talking about him. He might not be able to know where his energy lies. Why somebody there might know where the energy lies and knows that, yes, he can make it, being SUG president. And then you now go to him to encourage him and ensure that he gets there. That means you have assisted him. Not only him, the society. So for us to ensure that democracy works in our nation, everybody needs to lend a helping hand. Everybody needs to what? Lend a helping hand. You don't leave it for we that have been tagged troublesome alone. Yes, you can see us as being troublesome. But I can assure you, if you can join us, ensure that Nigeria becomes better, then you will know that 10 voices that are more audible than one voice can never be overemphasized. In one of my articles, I used Ilala Sepo because I like Ilala Sepo and Padeliam as a Kitty man. You know what we call Ilala Sepo? Before Ilala Sepo can become that sumptuous, finger-licking soup, a lot of things came together. Water, Iru, locust bean, Ego, Maggi. But let me ask you, the person that said Maggi, can you just put one Maggi cube in your mouth and eat it? Can you put oil in your hand and then be licking it? Can you take okra seed and then be chewing it? But when all those things decide to come together, they become what? Rice can never be rice without them backing each other. Yes or no? Because you see one grain of rice, you see another one, you see another one, you see another. Your bowl is now filled up. You now call a plate of rice. Without those grains backing themselves, can they be? So for our democracy to work, our democracy for it to work, all of us, we have to work together. Where lies your strength? Is it through encouragement? Where lies your strength? Is it through finance? Where lies your strength? Is it through development of philosophy? Is it by moving people around? Discover yourself and let us all come together so that our democracy, which is supposed to be for us, can work for us. Thank you.
A round of applause for Dr. Dio. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we would end our session for today. I want to thank you. This time, maybe thank you, Mr. Dio. Yeah. I hope we're okay. Yes, please. We had sections. Okay. So please, there's a question. You can sit. Please, the people with question.
Thank you very much. I have enjoyed this session on the use of data for policy making and the idea that a government must always seek to come up with policies that will deliver the best good for the most population. That has always been the challenge of government. And we seem to have also had the answer from some of the analysis that came. That most of the times, because those who people are government think of themselves first, they do not think of people-oriented policies. Or even when they come up with those policies, the implementation of the policies are not such as to deliver the best or the most good. That is to say, they do not optimize the content of the policy. And so that's the problem we have. Now, the other point which came out of this discussion is, how do we engage with government in order that we compel them to come up with a policy and to implement the policy? That is where we have the problem of engagement. Is it by sensitizing ourselves? Is it by mobilizing ourselves? And I think, again, some of the answers came out. We must stand up. We must be conscious. We must arm ourselves with knowledge. And that's why my friend from budget is very important. If you say budget, what happens in budget?
No, it's not budget, it's budget.
I'm aware, budget. I know budget. I use some of the information in my own research. In budget, you also know about looking at the data that comes out of national budget, appropriation. Now, that point where we are appropriating, do we follow our budget implementation when we are allocating resources, either to this road, to this dam, to this educational policy and all of that? So we have this lack in our own persons to engage with government so that government knows that if it doesn't implement its own policy, there will be trouble. So I think this is my takeaway from here. And I'm happy that...
Sir, please, your name.
Tony Odiadi is the name.
A round of applause, sir.
Thank you.
A round of applause. Okay, okay, we have another person?
Okay. Good afternoon.
Yes.
My question is
Please, your name?
Gladness. My name is Gladness.
Okay.
How do we encourage a people that have been downtrodden over the years? We're all here in 2020, I believe, where a bunch of young people went to the toll gates and were killed. So how do we encourage a people, how do we keep encouraging a people that have been downtrodden severely by the government? That's it.
Wonderful question. Do we have any other one? I think that's the only. Okay, this way, please. That's okay. Another person. This is getting interesting. Don't worry. Don't worry. That's why we're here. This is getting interesting.
Yes, I want to ask a question for what Barrister Odadi said.
Okay.
Okay, how do we get involved? Because there is this timid tendency. If I go out there, if I speak out, what happens to me? So how do we get involved? Now, we want to get involved. But how do we get involved? And what are those things that will build our courage that we need to speak out? We need to get involved. We want to get involved so that things can get better. But how do we get involved, and how do we take away that timidity, just like one of the speakers, the other panelists talked about? The door is open. How do we access the door with confidence? Thank you very much.
There's somebody there.
Where, please? Oh my God, all the way to the back. Okay.
Yes.
I think that would be all, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, the question? There's somebody there. All right.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, please.
Okay, so my questions are actually like two in one.
Okay.
Okay, so the first is this. You spoke about the revolution, right?
Sorry, we can't hear you.
You spoke about the revolution, right? Revolution.
Okay, revolution. All right.
Yeah, I read about the French Revolution and the English Revolution. If it's by revolution, what is the weight? So, for example, let's say there are people who are scholars, right? So they read very hard overnight and all. So for that level of results, they work very hard. And that's the price they have to pay to be scholars or, first-class students. If we say it's going to be by revolution in this country called Nigeria, what is going to be the weight that the people have to pay. And how weighty is that weight going to be? Like the price that's going to be paid, how heavy is it going to be on us? That's one. And then two, if it's by educating the people, because there's a trend right now. If you're in the know, they buy you over. You get, so I've seen people that they know the truth, but because the government found out, they kind of bought them over, give them lands and a lot of money and all. So actually the problem is our ignorance and our lack of taking action, right? So if it's not by revolution, if it's by education, who are the people who gather this data? Because if you look at China now, they kind of hide a lot of information today. You don't know what's happening in China at all because the government sensitizes all the information. So you can't even really say this is what is happening or this is not what is happening. If it says by educating the masses, the people who gather this data, like let's say our health data, what to spend, what to buy, all this information, who are they and what process should they go through to come out as credible and competent people? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So which one are you going for, sir?
You see, it seems as if this is the session everybody had been waiting for. Because all of a sudden, everybody just woken up from, anyway. I will first of all give an example, Barrister. Look at that policy. Patronize
Nigerian made. Innit? And then you will see Baba Basanjo will wear Adire, Agbada. You will see, what's his name now? Dapo Abiodun, also wearing Adire. But when they were about to buy vehicles for the National Assembly, why didn't they patronize Innocent Motors? Why did they allow that humongous capital flight to import vehicles? Go and read about the Asian tigers. It's also another form of revolution. Go and read about it. Then you're going to see how the Asian countries developed. All right? Let me leave that. As regards timidity, allow me to stand up at this point, I beg. Because you see, once there is no amount of rainfall that can wash away the spots of the leopard. No matter how old I am still an Aluta. And Aluta doesn't sit down. Aluta always roll up his sleeves, just as I am. Sir, when you're talking of timidity, yes, some people will be timid. Go and read Nelson Mandela, Long Way to Freedom. Those are my mentors. Thomas Sankara, Gaddafi, Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, and Fidel Castro of Cuba. Even though I don't belong to the socialist Marxist, I'm also a capitalist. I'm a capitalist. If you don't work, you cannot eat. Yes. But not that I'll be oppressing you with my own capital. No, I must be ready to assist you, make you work for me, enjoy the labor that you are working for me so that you can work more. Just like Ford. Go and read about Ford in America. That Ford vehicle. Go and read about him. While all vehicles like Chrysler and all that were dying down, they saw his own, everybody riding it. You know why? He made sure that all his workers that are working for him are not alienated for what they are producing. Abioga, alienation, production alienation. Are you with me? Now, if you're now talking about timidity, we have to. Some people have to. And that is why rice cannot be rice without carrying each other. And I will now give you an analogy. Before you get a prize, don't you pay price? Before you are being awarded the best student in a class, would you read? Burning a candle is the price you have to pay for that prize. Because without the cross, there can never be the crown. And that's what we are saying. And meanwhile, even the bishops, they now come up with a song that the way of the cross is rugged. Yes or no? The way of the cross is rugged. Yes. We all went to toll gates. Some people were killed. May their soul rest in peace. May their what? Soul rest in peace. Look at it. A road is bad. And every day, the passers-by always break their tires, puncture their radiator, and they kept on spending money. What will they do? They will grade the road, yes or no? And then you will see a lot of dust, yes or no? Most of those dust, some will fly away, some will hang on the leaf, on the tree, while some will come down. But at the end of the day, what will we achieve? The road will be smooth. So you should also bear in mind, we should always bear in mind, both Christian and Muslim, because I also read the Quran. It wasn't easy for Muhammad, SAW. It was not easy for him. That's why he ran from Mecca to Medina. Yes or no? Sister Puda, yes or no? He ran from Mecca to Medina. So also Jesus Christ, at a point, he said, Abba, Father, I wish this cup can be taken over me. But now say, let that will be done. That is to say, to get that crown, it must pass through that cross. For Nigeria to survive, for us to get there, we must sacrifice. And that's why since 2015, I wrote on my page, Facebook page, WhatsApp page, go and look at my DP there. I put the national flag there. And I said, sacrificing the rest of my life to serve my fatherland.
A round of applause to that. A round of applause to that. Right. The room is hot.
When you call, let somebody call my phone now. Since 2015, let somebody call that phone. It's national anthem you will hear.
Give us 10 minutes.
Call it.
You never answer all. 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes.
Madam, call it. 08022. Call it. It's national anthem. Since 2015. So, what sacrifice are you making? Listen, since 2015, I told my kids, I said, guys, the journey is going to be long. I don't know how far it's going to take, but I have to pass through it. It's not for me. It's for your generation and generations to come. What are you doing? Thank you.
A round of applause. Okay. Before we go into the data question, I just want to add a thing or two from these two questions. How do we get involved? My comrade has said a lot, but personally, I have ideas the way I look at things. I don't believe there's anybody that is timid in the race for democracy. Why do I say this? We were at the toll gate, a few persons were killed. What fire did that ignite in you? That's the question I ask people when they ask me. What fire did that ignite in you? How do we get involved? Yes, there are people you think are timid. Youth capacity, we have people who can advocate. If you can't come out and fight, go into the advocacy platforms and do stuff. I don't know if you get me. So there are different levels of engagement. You can be a policymaker like we just, you can be a politician and be a good one. I'm not sure we ever had a good one in Nigeria, so why not be the first? I don't know if you know any. I'll give you $1,000 if you do. But we don't. So why not be the first? Why not be? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because you'll be fighting against over 700 persons in that house. But stand out. If you cannot come out and fight, shout Isoetoe Africa, then say somewhere, write the books, sensitize these people, talk to them, encourage them, give them the room to understand. Like he said, find your strength. If you cannot fight with hand, fight with the brains. That's where I look at it from. So I believe we all have a role to play, but different levels of engagement. With that, we'll take the data question and we'll be all, I promise.
All right, so allow me stand because everybody has been standing. All right, let me just start from where he stopped. So I felt I would address her question last because it was quite emotional. But since he has said that tone, I will just start from there. How do you encourage a downtrodden people? I would say sometimes out of darkness comes the most inspiring stories. Yeah. So the fact that you ask that question means you want to do something about it. And that's a good place to start. Just continue. Keep thinking on it. The idea will come. What you need to do will come to you. Now, quickly to how we can engage and data. Sir mentioned about budget data and engaging. There's something we now call the Budget Implementation Report, BIR, Budget Implementation Report. For now, all the state governments now publish their BIRs on a quarterly basis, every quarter. So you can use that to get information and engage with government. I'm sure about 1 or 2 weeks ago, we heard on social media how Dr. Doherty brought out some line items in the Lagos State government expenditure and said you allocated 400 and something billion for the vehicle of the chief of staff, and that cost an uproar. So that is what data can do. It gives you the tools, in quotes, the bullets, to use to engage with the government. Now, in this generation, we have something that previous generations did not have, and that is social media. It's a very useful platform. Don't go and defame anybody's character. Please, if you speak based on evidence, people have to speak to the evidence, not you. All right? When Mr. Doherty published his own analysis, you see where the Lagos State government have to come out to start explaining to the public why. Because these were explanations that were approved. So they had to explain to the people that voted them in, that this is why we spent this money. All right? So please, we have things that, like the BIRs. The federal government also has a BIR, which is not as comprehensive as state governments, but we are trying to advocate for them to disaggregate it, make it much more detailed, so line items like this can be followed. When you see budget performance, okay, my organization is doing an analysis of the current budget, so I don't want to preempt some things, but there was some information that was released, that was said yesterday regarding revenue performance, which, based on the data that we have, may not be accurate. And these are some of the things that we will bring up and say, okay, maybe you need to review some of these numbers as well, check it again and be sure that, because based on your projections, you are claiming that you can raise a certain amount of revenue in the next year, but the underlying assumptions may be problematic. So these are some ways you can engage. I think I'll go very fast. And then, permit me to just mention some tools that budget offers. So we have Tracker. Tracker goes around the country monitoring projects that have been implemented or that are supposed to be implemented. We physically verify them. Those that are abandoned, we post it and say, this has been abandoned. This is the line item in the budget, and instead it has been approved, it has been spent. It has not been, or in cases where it has been completed, you will say, okay, this project, this is the amount, and it has been completed. And we've had serious engagement over that platform. We also have me.budget.org, where your local government's budget, allocation, not budget now, the money that the federal government has released for each local government, is 774 local governments across the country, is on that platform. You can go there and engage, and this is now, it brings it more home. You don't have to go to the federal government or your state governor, your local government chairman, who is closer to you, or your councillor, if you know him, which you should. Engage them. This is the amount. In the first quarter, we had like over 500 billion naira to these local government. What have you done with it? Why is it that these portals are not being fixed? These are much more closer to you, and you can engage with them much more directly. I think I've covered all the areas.
Thank you, everyone, for this session. Oh, you have questions. So to further continue this conversation, you can reach out to any of us on various platforms. We would share with the organizers, and they will share with you, please. Oh, it's not a question. You want to add? Okay, while we leave the stage, we'll just give you, before she continues, to just say something. Thank you very much, Mr. Dyer, and thank you, Mr. It's been a great session. It's been a great session, and I just want to appreciate both of you. I learned from both of you, and I'm grateful. I hope we learned too. A round of applause for our panelists.
Okay. Good afternoon, all. My name is Good News. I'm actually touched by our question, and that was why I remember this popular thing going on now. The lady that is trying to express herself online, she's a popular person, but I'm sure if I mention it, everybody will remember her. And her name is Helen Paul. Now she talks about her background and how she has grown. So now that can be applied to our country. We all know how this country is. We all know how the country can even help us. Those are the knowledge we have at hand. So the question we should ask ourselves is this. Now that I know my country may not really help me, does that mean we should be maybe cowardice, sit on a spot and feel we cannot move anywhere? No. From our story, I learned some certain things. First, we need to encourage ourselves. First of all, we need to be sure of what we can achieve. Because growing up, she felt, oh, she's nobody. She didn't even have a name to herself. Her story was so pathetic. But what did she do? She continued growing. But another thing is that we need to be respectful. She mingled with those people that can bring her up. So when she's respectful, it's easy for you to know that this lady, this girl, she's good at this. And they called her out. And we need to be realistic as well of our expectations. So our growth should be one step after another. Coming out is easier now because all of them are talking about social media. So, but we need to be respectful at the same time. We need to know that these people are our leaders. So when you want to talk about it, you should not just talk simply because I'm a youth, I can just say anything I want to say. If you are respectful, and we need to read wide. Most youths now don't read. They go up on social media, dance on TikTok, and that's all. They need to read wide and have information.
They say that's where the money is now.
But at the same time, they want the country to be okay and get a good job. Most people finish a good career, then go and dance because that's where the money is.
Yes.
At 60, will you still continue to
Will
dance?
you still be dancing?
So we have to be realistic, and at the same time, we need to get what value is. What I mean there is this: growing ourselves. Look at Ellen Paul. Someone pulled her out, but she didn't sit.
Yes.
She grown herself.
Yes.
So that example of people dying at toll gate or this thing, some people just go there to have the fun. Do they even know why they are there? So they may not have to go there to risk their life.
Yes.
They can go on social media and talk realistically with enough evidence and keep quiet. That will publicize itself, and I'm sure that can work better.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you.